They boarded the plane, thinking it would be a normal flight. A short trip from Uruguay to Chile. Nothing special. But a few hours later, that plane would crash into one of the most unforgiving places on Earth. And what happened next would force the survivors into a decision so extreme that the world would still be talking about it decades later. In October 1972, a Uruguayan rugby team and their friends and family boarded Flight 571. They were young, excited, laughing. It was supposed to be a simple journey across the Andes Mountains. But as the plane crossed into the mountains, the weather turned. Clouds thickened. Visibility dropped. The pilots struggled to see anything ahead. Then, in an instant, the plane struck a mountain. The impact ripped the aircraft apart mid-air. The tail broke off. Seats were torn from the floor. People were thrown violently through the cabin. And then, silence. The wreck slid down a glacier and came to a stop in a frozen valley high in the Andes. 12 people died instantly. More would die in the days that followed. The survivors were injured, freezing, and completely isolated. But at first, they believed rescue was coming. They had to believe that. They found a small working radio, and they listened closely for news. Then they heard it. Search and rescue teams were looking for them. Planes were flying over the Andes. Hope returned. They waved at passing aircraft. They used luggage and wreckage to form giant signals in the snow. But the mountains were too vast. The wreckage too hidden. No one saw them. Days passed. Then a week. Then more. And slowly, the truth began to sink in. They were alone. Completely alone. Food ran out quickly. The small supplies they had were gone within days. They melted snow for water. They shared everything. But the cold was relentless. At night, temperatures dropped far below freezing. Many had no proper clothing, and the injuries from the crash began to take their toll. One by one, people died, and every day, survival became less about hope and more about endurance. After 10 days, the radio crackled again. A message came through. The search was being called off. The plane was officially lost. No one was coming. There would be no rescue, just silence, and snow, and time running out. This was the moment everything changed, because now survival depended entirely on them. Food was gone. There was nothing left in the wreckage. No plants, no animals, nothing living in the frozen wasteland. And the survivors faced a decision no human ever wants to face. If they stayed, they would die slowly in the cold. If they acted, they would have to cross a mountain range that had already destroyed a plane. So they waited and waited. But starvation does not wait back. Eventually, a group of survivors made a choice. 2 men volunteered to attempt something impossible. They would climb out of the wreckage and walk through the Andes. To find help, they had no climbing equipment, no proper maps, only makeshift clothing and pure desperation. They stepped into the snow and disappeared into the white horizon. For days, they climbed through ice and rock. Every step was a battle against exhaustion. The altitude made every breath painful. At night, they slept on frozen ground. They nearly turned back multiple times. But they kept going, because going back meant death, and forward meant maybe survival. Then, after 10 days of walking, they saw something impossible, a sign of life beyond the mountains. And eventually, they found people. Once they explained what had happened, rescue teams were sent immediately. Helicopters flew into the mountains, and what they found shocked the world. After 72 days in freezing conditions, 16 people were still alive in the wreckage, starved, frozen, changed forever, but alive. The Andes crash became one of the most extreme survival stories in history, not because of the crash itself, but because of what survival demanded afterward. It forced impossible decisions. It tested human limits in ways few could imagine. And it left behind one haunting question. If you were in that situation, what would you have done to survive?